Hello and welcome to the Convention Creators Podcast, a podcast where we take you behind the tables, through the artist alleys, and into the lives of the makers who bring the con scene to life. I'm Jay, and I'm going to be your solo host today as PB is off doing something mysterious, probably involving prep for MCM London, which is very, very soon. Very, very stressful. But never fear, because I'm not alone. Today, I'm joined by a brilliant guest whose work may be instantly recognisable for its colour, charm, and tiny details that really make you say, wait, how did they even make that? It's the one and only Hannah from Hillman's Handmade.
Hello, everyone.
We have so much to talk about. I reckon we get straight into it. So I reckon we should.
Let's just dive
go,
right
go,
in.
go, go, go. So yeah, another episode. We're here again, and like I mentioned before the intro, we're joined by the delightful Hannah. Hello, Hannah. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you very much. How have you been?
I have been very well, actually. I've taken a little chill day, and I'm here ready. Are you ready? Are you so ready for this?
Are you ready? I'm ready!
I am definitely ready. I think what I do in the con scene is different and unusual, and I don't think people get it sometimes. So it's going to be nice to be able to be like, aha, here is information, learn things.
Oh. And we love that, because at the end of the day, this is the perfect opportunity, because I love inviting guests who have just a slightly different story to tell, and you definitely fit that quota. I am wearing one of your products today, which, you know,
I love him.
Shockingly, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Can you believe it?
I know, I would never believe it in a million years. I thought it was going to be the one-piece straw hat all the way.
I'm so well known for how much I love One Piece. It's crazy. No, I did get the Sonic one. I very much love it. And I've always been intrigued by what you do, because like we've mentioned, the stuff you make is well, it's in the name. It's in the name. It's handmade. Yeah. And it brings up a lot of questions as to how does that happen? How do we get this stuff together? But one place I want to start is before the business, before you're doing all this craziness, this crazy con life that we're all involved in now. How did you get into creative making? Did you go straight into working with polymer, or was there something that bridged the gap? Seems quite an intense place to start off with.
Fair question, though, to be fair. I kind of dived straight in with polymer clay, because a couple of people that I followed on Instagram had a jewelry business themselves, and some of the stuff that they were creating was fantastic. I loved it. It was a little bit of Pride, a little bit of Halloween, but it was all polymer clay. Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I really enjoy this. And at one point, we got to know them quite well, and they sent us like a little PR box with a sort of make your own rainbow heart kit in it. So little bits of polymer clay and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with making this little piece. And it was just, I think it was just a little rainbow heart or something back then. And I fell in love with it. So I was like, I want to do more of this. I want to do a bit more of it. So I did. And then I thought it'd be a great idea to open a business. So I just literally jumped in at the deep end and went, right, I'm doing it. Although I will say to anybody who bought one of my pieces in 2022 when I was first starting, I apologise sincerely. I have learnt so much since then.
No. That's the wrong attitude. What they have now are rare collector's items.
They have rare collector's items, they do.
Rare collector's items. And they'll be like, look, this is when she started out her career. This is worth fortune now. Because she doesn't make them like this anymore.
I really don't. I look back at my stuff and I was like, I don't make any of it anymore. So that's good point. Good point.
So you really did just think, you know what, this is intriguing to me. I'm going to start playing around with it, and then thought, oh, I could start selling this.
I'm also waiting on a possible ADHD assessment as well. So it could be a bit of that as well. I could have been my brain just going, boof, do it. But no, it was literally all born from this little PR box that they sent. And unfortunately, the couple went their separate ways, but the other one of them built their own business and still doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'll always maintain that they were such inspirations for me with what they did and all that kind of stuff. But as I went into it, and I thought, well, actually, I'm a bit of a nerd as well, so let's bring that into it as well. Yeah. It just kind of evolved to where we are now, essentially.
But you obviously, yes, you got into the side of like the hand making and stuff, but a lot, I'm thinking of particular designs like Priger, for example. So there's obviously an aspect of you, but yeah, they're just like creating things visually as
Yes.
well. So have you always been into like drawing?
Not doodling and drawing. Yeah, not doodling and drawing. I'm actually a trained actor and singer, so I've always had that kind of creative, I want to be out there kind of thing. Ever since I was a kid, 4 years old, I want to be an actor. And drawing, not so much. The Priger was actually my first kind of, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Priger, but was my first foray into it, because I remember hating art at school, and I think it was partly because of my teacher, because she'd always put, no matter what I drew, she'd always put needs tone, and I'm like, what the is tone? You haven't explained any of it to me.
Teach me tone, and I'll
Teach
give
me
you
what
tone.
it is. And I just really didn't get on with it. And then there was another point where the homework was go away and draw your bedroom. So I was like, okay, and I did. And I had a little bit of help from my granddad, bless him, because he was definitely the artist in the family. But and he sort of kind of helped me just a little bit with the perspective and stuff like that. I handed it in. Her comment was, needs colour. My bedroom was white. My bedroom was white as growing up. I was like, I hate you. You said draw our bedrooms. I have drawn my bedroom. What do you want from me? So I remember hating art, absolutely, when I was younger. So I didn't do anything with it for a long, long time. And I sort of did a couple of sketches over years, but they were never, I don't know. I was always really critical of it. So then when I got into the polymer clay side and started having that as an outlet, it sort of made me go back and think, okay, let's start again. What can I draw? And hence Priger. Great detail.
But you were still very much a creative person through, like you said, acting and performing and stuff. I want to know a bit more about that, to be honest, because what then spoke to you about that form of outlet?
So
why did that appeal to you?
I don't know what it was, but I love singing from a very young age, and any time we used to go to church every Sunday, and any time we went, I'd always enjoy the hymns and everything. And because I think I find there's a lot more I get from an emotional release in a song than I do from, like, even say reading a book or something like that. There's something about songs and that outlet and that emotion that really hit me. And so growing up, I was just like, I want to do a little bit of this, and hence the acting got built into that as well. And it was just a form of expression that I didn't feel I got anywhere else. So, even if it was playing a character from a show, it was still more than just me. So it just hit right. I can't explain it more than that. But yeah.
You actually did already mention that the stuff you made at the beginning, it's very different to the stuff you made now.
Yes.
What were the first kind of items you were building and making? Because obviously, I guess there was a large part of you were still learning a lot of
absolutely.
it. As we always are, we never stop learning. But like you were very much in the first stages of like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So what were the first sort of products?
So the very first products, the very first products were earrings and necklaces, and I kind of went into it with this idea that I wanted to do something. I called it alternative. I'm not sure whether I'd call that now, but there's something a little bit different. So it was stars, it was moons, it was the more kind of witchy kind of thing. And I had very, very few clay colours to work with. So it was this colour, it was that colour, or it was like a marble of the two. I didn't have any, like my pasta roller I didn't have back then. I didn't have, anything to sort of measure out the level of the clay or anything like that. So it was all hand rolled back in the day.
Yeah.
I hadn't really got my head around conditioning just yet, so like there was that to learn, and it was basically sort of very basic stars and moons earrings. They were all quite thin. I had a different varnish back then, which I've changed now to resin, so there was that element to learn brand new as well. It was from looking from where I am now to back then, it's very, very different. There were a lot more simplistic designs than we do now. So
I was going to say, because I imagine a lot of the designs you were selling right at the beginning were just based on like, well, I can make a moon. Where now you're making stuff like this, which is crazy.
Yeah. It was very basic cutters. It was like a cutter of a star, a cutter of a moon, a cutter of a circle, or whatever it was. And it was just whatever I had and whatever I could afford time and put into it and start up. And it sounds. I think back on it. I think, oh, but I was learning. That was the fun of it. It was just throw yourself into it and see where it takes you. So.
What do you say that, I mean, I imagine your creative process has evolved a lot, but like based on where your creative process is right now, what would you say the whole timeline of this? Like, where do you go from your first idea to the final product? Because again, we talked about this in a previous episode, specifically around making pins, that actually when you design a pin, it's not just a case of I can make any design I want, whatever takes my mood. Actually, no, you're based on the limitations on the hardware and the materials you have. And actually, this is very much that same principle. Like when you're making a design, you've got to consciously think, okay, that's great. How do I make that? So like, what's the first steps for you in terms of thinking up a design?
I think some of it is drawing on what you know. So drawing on things that you have some sort of connection with. So for example, if you take Pride, for an instance, very much into the LGBT community. I'm non-binary myself, so it was kind of something that I had some sort of connection to. Likewise with some of the nerdy stuff, I enjoy Pokemon, so Pokemon was one of the designs that I wanted to do. So it all kind of stems from who you are and what you enjoy as a person, and then okay, what can I do with that? So always start with you, and then if there's a person or a song or a thing or a show that inspires you, what can you find in that, and start there. The next step is kind of, okay, what do I want to make? Do I want to do earrings? Do I want to do necklace? Do I want to do key ring? And because it can influence the size of the piece as well. So if you want to do it in a few different formats, sometimes it can work in the same size. Sometimes you might want earrings smaller than your necklace, for example. So there's that. Then it comes to building thing. That's where everything falls apart. But you then it's kind of matching up the colours that you want to use. So you think, okay, let's take Sonic, for example. He's blue. Oh, but he's got fleshy ears. He's got a fleshy mouth. So I need a colour that's that. Oh, his eyes are white. So I'm going to need to incorporate that. And it's kind of, okay, what do I need? Then it's whether you can get hold of a cutter. It's whether you could design your own, which we've done. It's whether, you'd use a texture roller, for example. It's all breaking it down into the smaller bits and then building it back up into the thing that you want to make. So
you mentioned that there's products you make that are very much inspired by sort of like the tool set you have, which means like I know what I know. How often do you have designs that you actually go into it going like, I don't actually know how to achieve this, but I'm really inspired by this, and you actually end up learning a whole new technique in the process, or a new approach that you basically learn a new skill in this process of making these models? Does that happen a lot?
It's very stressful. So I have to. I know I keep reverting back to Sonic, but he is literally he's my bastard. Honestly, he's my little one. I know this little guy. So, for example, when we went to build him in the start, we were just thinking. So where you can see his face here and his eyes, that was all going to be paint. We were just going to artwork it. But when it came to it, it was, well, no, he's a 3D character. He's got a life now, especially with the movies thing coming out and that sort of thing. He needs to be a bit more than that. So that was where we had the idea to build him from the different colours of clay. And, this is where I had to get the other half involved, because he's got the resin printers and the software and the, filament printers and things like that. So he was able to take a cutter that we'd found and sort of adapt it to the right sizing that we needed. That took 2 or 3 attempts in of itself just to get the cutter right. Because either you'd have a print would fail on you, or you go to cut it and the pieces don't fit right, or you then think, well, actually, I don't want to do it like that. I need it this way. And again, it needs to be resized. It's just a whole thing. So concept through to product is a whole journey in of itself, and it can be very stressful. Other things like Jigglypuff was absolutely brilliant. He was a cutter and he was a paint job, because obviously Pokemon is hand drawn. Done. He made sense to be painted, whereas Sonic just needed that bit more. So it's all, where is this thing coming from? And it can be so stressful trying to work it out. But learning how to adapt to those things along the way was the biggest.
Adaptation is something we continuously have to teach ourselves and reteach ourselves.
But when you reach that point, God, I've done it. I've got there, Plus, you know how to do it then. So when you come to do it again,
you're like, I've got this in the tilt. I've got this in the skill set. We're ready to go. When you're making these products, so you've got like a variety of products, and like you said, they're all, each one is not a factory press. Like, you're making these. No. I'm curious actually, and I hadn't thought about this before. What's the throughput in terms of like, this particular one is not fit for sale, it's going a bit wrong. What's the variable on making these things handmade?
I reckon if you made 100, probably only 80 would be good. There's so many. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because when you get to the point, say when you're doing the resin on the top of the finished piece, so you've done all the painting, you've done all the rest of it, the resin can fail you. It could drip off, and then you think, I'll snap it off afterwards, which sometimes it can be fine. Snap it off wrong and you've snapped the piece. I've snapped so many pieces doing that because I think, I could do it. You can't do it. I can never do it. So it's there's things like that, and even out of a batch of, I normally make quite small batches because obviously with everything being handmade, I don't want to overdo it because I'm not Amazon, I'm not Shein, I'm not Temu, I'm a person. So I'm just gonna do what I can. But even then, even if I made 10, I still might only end up with 6 usable ones because either something's gone wrong with the resin, or I've drilled the hole for the jump ring a bit too close to the edge or something like that, and that snaps off. There's so many things that can go wrong that I think people don't really take into account. And even when you're building something, we're product sort of prototyping a new Pokemon at the moment, and the changes he's gone through. So even so far, you wouldn't believe.
So actually, there can be a lot of revisions throughout the process as well from that first stage.
Exactly. I made a whole batch of this new Pokemon and hated every single one because I was just looking at it and I was like, no, he's not right. He's not right. I could see that there were little, not necessarily imperfections, but it just either something didn't line up or I wasn't happy with how that looked. And that was like a whole batch I couldn't use. Absolutely unusable.
That's very challenging, and I think that's a key example of when, as a creative person, we either go, right, we have to use this as inspiration as to what do we want to do differently, or we go, this went wrong, fuck my life.
Yep. Oh, I've had that reaction a lot.
I retire.
I do that a lot. I have cried, I have sworn, I have gone to bed angry, which you shouldn't do. All sorts of stuff, and it's all because something just doesn't come out like the vision I've got in my head. But I think it's a big lesson in that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just you've got the basics. What can you do to make it better?
Yes.
And it's just small tweaks and small revisions, something which I find so hard to get my head around because I'm such a perfectionist that it has to be right the first time. Doesn't happen in real life. So yeah, it's just taking your time and going, okay, it didn't work. It's fine. Let's try it this way.
Yeah.
So
because it's such an interestingly unique product to me. In your time that you've been doing cons now, which is just a few years now, how, like I said, like do you see many other polymer clay people? Like it seems like you're quite a niche group, to be honest.
I think I know of 2 other sellers who use polymer clay, but heavily not in the same way I do. So it's a medium that's definitely out there. But whereas they're like more through either 3D models or something like that, I'm much more the wearable sort of stuff.
Yes.
So as much as we use the same medium, what we do with it is completely different. Because I remember saying that on a TikTok, I was just kind of like, I'm sure I was the only one there that does what I do. And somebody went, oh, well, so-and-so does polymer clay. And I was like, no, they do it. I know of this person and I know they do polymer clay stuff, but that's not what I do. That's what I'm saying. It's 2 completely different things.
So where do you seek your advice, I guess? Where do you seek your knowledge base in the terms that, like, if I was to go into making some designs that I wanted as prints, I speak to Gilles, for example. I would speak to a variety of people who'd be like, this is the supply you need, this is the quality you need, da 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 da. This is what they would recommend, and I could take all the advice and build up my own idea of what's best. You don't have that. You didn't have that.
No.
So, like, was it just a case of like, I'm just going to have to wing this for myself? Like,
it was a bit of online. It was a bit of winging it in terms of research, thinking, oh, what do I look for? But I think because I did know these two sellers to start with, who back in the day they did lives and things like that, and I got to know sort of the polymer clay brands that they used and some of the tools that they used. It was all observation for me was key, because if I see someone doing something, I sort of understand how it works. So for me, it was like, okay, I can see they're doing it this way and I can see they're doing that. Okay. And I sort of just built up a picture in my head of how to do it. And then some of it was finding reputable sources online. So, for example, there's a newsletter called The Blue Bottle Tree who has worked with polymer clay for years. And their advice is invaluable. So, for example, I had one that I was just kind of, the clay was so brittle, it just would not merge. I couldn't do anything with it. It was falling apart. And they said, try X, try Y, try Z. And if it still doesn't work, that's when you know you've got to ditch it. And I thought, okay, that gives me a chance with this clay.
Yeah.
And it's just having a little look around and seeing either other creators that do similar things, even if they're in, I don't know, America or Australia or wherever it might be. People that put little videos up online, just watch how they do it and watch what they work with. You might find it doesn't work for you, and that's fine. But you've got another idea and there's something to bounce from. So it was a lot of winging it. There is a lot of winging it involved.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, but also there are other people out there. So it's just have a little look, have a little search around, and even if you find something that's a bounce pad, perfect. Yeah. You've got a bounce pad. So.
I guess there are some aspects of this business we call convention art and trading that you are able to pick up from others. A good one being, as an example, is what to sell in terms of themes of products. And where do you think your balance is right now between what's trending and what you feel is more like a personally, creatively satisfying?
I think I am definitely more this year going into the camp of I want to make things I enjoy rather than chasing a trend. The problem with trend chasing that you have as a hand maker, they're so quick. It's this, it's that, it's the other. Next week it's something else, and it's so fast. I can't hand make products in that time.
That's a really good point, actually.
I can't do it.
Of course.
So hence why things like Pokemon, because they're evergreen. I was around when the original 151 were out.
Same.
But, yeah. I can remember the original 151. They've always been a thing.
Yeah.
So something like this, which is personal to me, and it's something that a lot of generations enjoy, is great. Yeah. It works perfect for handmade items. But where you've got something that's such a trend that's here today, gone tomorrow, it's difficult. It's so hard.
So like you can't spend all your time investing in a product that needs such a quick turnaround and such a short shelf life.
Yeah. And I think as well there's a lot of stuff now that's reaching into the realms of nostalgia that people enjoy and hold on to. That's the kind of stuff I'd rather lean into, because it's a memory for someone. It's something they hold dear. It's something that maybe even you enjoy yourself, and you can understand where they're coming from. I much prefer to do that rather than trend chase, because it just doesn't work for handmade. I'd love to, but no. Yeah. I can't do it that fast. I have a full-time job as well, so I don't have the time.
Yeah,
I'm doing this all on my own time.
Very relatable. I think a good example of that sort of product is my boy Sonic, because he's very on trend right now because of the movies, and he's quite high profile right now, but he at the same time is also like a 90s gaming icon. Yeah. So he's very much speaks to two audiences right now, which makes him a bit more of a safer bet currently, because
he's very much more evergreen than some other things that have come up now.
Exactly. So you've done a variety of products. You've gone from making moons to these bastard hedgehogs. All that silly.
I'm sorry, he is going off the cliff. I'm really sorry. out of these two boys, he's my boy. Shadow. But I think because and again, this just shows how different they are with him, because he was more flat and we could build on. We could line everything up. Whereas with Sonic, everything was almost joined because his eyes are joined and to his mouth and everything else. There was a lot more intricacies with him. So
It's all the fun of that. What would you say? Because we've talked about the highs and lows of making these sort of products and what inspires you as well. Right now, what is your key takeaways of like, this is why I keep coming back to it. This is why I keep doing my die cutters and my resin and all this sort of stuff. What's the thing currently that draws you back to this specific craft?
I think it's because when I get into it, it's very much a therapy for me. It's something that I can just throw myself into for a few hours and, okay, things might stress you out occasionally. That's what happens with hand making. Yeah. But it's just something I keep coming back to because I enjoy it. And that's what I think last year I really, really lost, was the fact that because I was doing so many events, so many changes, so many this, I wasn't doing it for me anymore. So whereas this year I've gone back to, right, I want to enjoy it again. So, it is very much a come back to me year for me. So yeah,
that's amazing.
It is what it is at the end of the day.
No, I think that's a really healthy attitude to have in terms of why you would want to come back to do something. And I guess like for a lot of us, it's a case of like the reason we started doing it is because we enjoy it. Exactly. Sometimes it just has to be as simple as that. We don't need to overcomplicate it. Well, now that we've talked about all the reasons of why and the creative thoughts behind what we do, we're now going to come after the break and talk about the fun bit, business. And we're back, and we're here to talk to the wonderful Hannah about the actual practicalities and joys of running a business. Because another thing, from all the other businesses we've had, I don't know why I did it like that. From all the other businesses we have had speak to on the show, I think you take a slightly different approach again, which again is why it's really interesting to talk to you. Because everyone we've spoken to, a lot of people who run creative businesses so far, it's their full-time job.
Yeah.
It's something they do day to day. Whereas you're more in the boat that I am, where actually this isn't our full-time work. We have day jobs. We have things that pay bills and that during the day. So all this other stuff happens around it. We do in our free time, whatever that means. Whatever that point is free time.
What's that again? What? Free time?
So
you need that meme with all like mathematics going around the head.
Yeah. Like, what? Free time? So what does, in that context, what does a typical creative work week look like for you that people may not necessarily understand? Because like you said, you've got to fit it around a 9 to 5, as it were. It's
so variable. Honestly, there are some weeks where I could go a week and I just can't. And then there are other weeks where I'm like, okay, I know I work out on a Tuesday and a Thursday, so I'll do something the other days, even if it is just, I don't know, putting the base together for something. It's just getting something done. And especially when, I start at 9, finish at 5, I've then got to have dinner, try and get my head out of work, and then picking it back up to go into small business stuff. That's where my motivation tends to falter a little bit because I'm already so tired. Because for those of you who don't know, I have... I can't say it, myalgic encephalopathy, or chronic fatigue syndrome, as it's more widely known. So a lot of the time, if my energy crashes, that's it. I can't get back into it. Yeah. So it varies so much from week to week, whether it's I've Monday night and I've got loads done, or a Monday night and I've just rolled clay and that's all I've done. It varies so much. And any weekend, if I've got some time free, I try and just give myself a slower morning, get out, lie in, have breakfast, and do something on my own terms. Because I think that's the trouble with having a job and doing this. None of it's on your own terms. You're having to fit work around this, around seeing friends, around family, around everything else. So it's so variable. It sounds like a real cop out of an answer, but honestly, it really is. I think it's
it is. I think it is a very valid one, to be honest, and because sometimes it's harder to build a routine if you wanted to anyway, because
Yeah.
again, you have this other job that dictates a lot of that for you anyway. Um,
Yeah.
you touched about that thing which I actually personally find really interesting, which is the idea of you finish your job, you come home, and you sort of have to switch off. Is there any things that help you switch between? Because they are very two different mindsets, I find. How do you do that mental switch?
Oh, so I primarily work from home. So my creative, I don't know if you can see, but my creative stuff is behind me and my work stuff is in front of me. There is no, barrier or anything like that,
Oh
just because
wow,
of
okay.
the space in the house we've got. So what I always make sure to do is I never go straight from I've logged off there, I'm going over there. It's always
Yes.
go out of the room. Just go out of the room, go have a dinner, watch
Yeah.
YouTube, One Piece, whatever it is, and just do something that's not that focus. Do something that's
Yeah.
not that work.
Take a step back.
Take a step back, exactly. And just, even if it's, I sit there and I think, okay, what do I need to get done tonight? And what do I want to get done tonight? Because they're two different things. So if there is nothing that I need to do, and there is something that I want to do, it's then, well, do I need to do it tonight? So it's kind of again, breaking it down into smaller steps. And then once I've had that time to watch something, have some food, because food, to be fair, even having dinner in between work and creating stuff, it just gives you that something else to focus on. So you take yourself out of 9 to 5 and it's just something else to do. And then just come back and see what you can do in the evening. And if there are nights where you really can't face it, then I just don't force myself, because that was the trouble I was having last year. There was so much going on. I was making myself do things and making myself do a restock or a new piece or something else. You can't do that. Can't do it.
Yeah. So when we talk about you having like a day job as well as this, which feels like something that's like a conscious decision of yours, that this is something you do on top of that work that you do in the day, the income, as it were, and this is something you do on top. Do you feel that actually changes the way I approach my business, has some very key differences?
Yes. I feel that because this is something I do sort of on top of my 9 to 5 job, I feel like my progress, and I know you shouldn't compare, but I do feel like progress for me is a lot slower than it maybe would be if I could put more of my full time into it. So, whereas I know full-time artists have that problem where they need to keep making sure the sales come in and things like that. So they need to make sure they're on top of it, on top of their marketing, on top of everything else, because it is their full-time income.
Yeah.
So in some ways, am I grateful to have a 9 to 5 job? Yes. Am I quite lucky, actually? Yes, because even jobs on the market nowadays are hard to find. So in that respect, I'm very grateful. But it's also, I know people that do this as their full-time thing, and I hats off to them. Honestly, hats off to them, because they need so much love right now. It's crazy.
100% they do.
Yeah.
Would you say that's
definitely
always
different.
been your approach, that this was a supplementary thing, or do you think there's been a time where you may have considered, actually this could be my full-time gig?
Yeah, I think when I started it out, I really wanted it to be the full-time gig. I really wanted it to be something I could do all of the time. The difficulty I found with it is this was right when the world started to burn. So this is right as we had, Liz Truss and the market crash that happened. This is right as we had, this was after the peak after COVID. So we had COVID, and then there was a bit of a peak where everybody could go out again. And then all of a sudden it was raining the pennies because the cost of living and stuff. So I started at the most horrific time. Do not recommend. But so there was a time where I really wanted it to do it. But the other side of it is that you've got to remember, when you do markets and cons and things like that, you have to pay for the tables to be there. You have to pay for your fuel. You have to pay for all of the setup, even the cages that I use, the hooks that I use. Then there's the backing cards and everything else. There's a lot needs to be paid for. And towards the end of last year, that was just not happening. It was just not possible. So I had to, as much as take a step back and just think, hang on, go back to the roots. Why did I start this? Why did I want to do this? And it wasn't because I wanted it to be full time, and it wasn't that drive. It was actually, I enjoyed it. So that's how last year it kind of switched my brain a little bit to think, okay, if this becomes something full-time later on, that's great. As of the right now, it needs to be the other way around.
Drive. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I find it really interesting because I think there are a lot of people who listening and watching this who will be in a similar situation to you, but a lot of people who start out in creative business, that will be a reality for not all of them, but for a lot of them, where they actually already have a day job, a retail office job, something like that, and this is their first foray will be doing that on top. And it's this kind of interesting thing of like, okay, this is working now. And I think you've got to make that decision, really, haven't you? It's like, well, where do you want this to go? Because that will affect how you approach the business that you're doing. And actually, it's okay to say, yes, I would love this to replace my day job. I want to do this full time. So that affects how I direct things. But it's also fine to say, I really love doing this. But my approach is just different. And I think both are valid, very valid.
I think it's very much, if you ever get to that situation, just meet yourself where you're at. It's not, don't talk to yourself in the future. Don't talk to past you. Meet yourself where you're at. Look in the mirror and say, look, are you tired? Yes. Do you need to step back? Yes. Okay. Then that's fine. It's okay to have those moments. It's okay to have that thought process. It's something that a lot of people will face, especially in uncertain times. So we've got like the USA tariffs, for example, that's affecting a lot of small businesses. You've got companies that are shutting down because of it. You've got a lot of struggles in the world at the moment. So if it is at that point where you think, oh, this is so hard, maybe just have that conversation with yourself. It's okay. Don't feel like you have to do what I did and burn yourself out. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Trust me.
Well, any good business, small business or otherwise, sometimes it's about having a business plan in your head of some kind, and it's like, okay, what's the intention of this business? What do I want this business to be right now? And then it's why it's important to have those conversations with yourself.
And it's also, and I know it can be hard, especially for those like me who are very, very self-critical. You didn't fail. You never ever failed. You learnt. And that is part of the human experience. It doesn't mean that you were wrong in the first place. It doesn't mean that you failed in the first place. It just means that you've been wise enough to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I need to look at this differently. And that's a strength. That's one of the strongest things that you can do. Because it's scary. It is scary. I know that people would love this to be their full time, or I know people who are full time who are struggling at the moment, and it's very, very scary. And massive love and hugs to anyone who does it, but it's okay if you do need to have that little moment of, I need to just meet myself where I'm at and see what I need to do next. It's okay. Be gentle with yourselves at the end of the day.
Sometimes it's the nicest way. Sometimes it's very necessary.
And if you find yourself at that burnout point as well, it's like, who are you burning out for? It's not you. I'm not burning out for myself. Am I burning out for everybody? Why? If you're saying, I'm burning out for everybody else, why are you burning out for them? They've got their own energy. What's yours at the moment?
Is it? I think that's bang on, to be honest. So you have this business that you do, like you said, in the time that you have available to you. So you're juggling everything. So you're making these products, you're packaging them, you're shipping them, you're having to do the admin, the social media, you're having to do the customer service of it all. What do you find makes it manageable for you to juggle all these things?
I don't. It's all chaos. Everything's on fire, and I'm fine.
Honestly, that is the most honest, accurate answer. I love it because the amount of time it is chaos, and that is such a realistic view. I know so many artists who it's such a relatable thing to say, and there are of course many people who are just so on it and organized, but there are a lot of people.
Sometimes it is
one man banding it, and it's like we're just getting by. We are just getting by.
That's why I try and chunk it down as well. It just cuts through some of the chaos. So I mean, and I also pack and do my orders as they come in. I don't do a sort of wait till the end of the week and then do a mass packing and then send them out. I do everyone individual as they come in. Number one is accuracy of order, because then I know they've ordered that. Okay, put that in the box. They've ordered that. Put that in the box, and it helps to have a little bit of order in the chaos. If I can just do little bits. But yeah, everything's on fire. It's fine.
But it's a pretty fire, so it's all good.
What can I say?
No, I think that's very relatable. I also am curious. We for those watching, listening, we have discussed this prior to this interview. I'm not just like throwing this at you out of nowhere.
Yeah, no.
But we did discuss prior about the struggles of small business, and also a small business from someone who's from the perspective that can't dedicate their whole day. And you had posted a story last month, I think for April, where you'd mentioned how many sales you had, which actually I think is a very transparent thing to do online, to actually, as a small business, go, this is the sales I did.
I've seen more creators do it recently. I think it highlights just how hard it is for everybody out there, and it's not even a pity thing. It's not these are my sales and they're so bad, pity me, buy from me. It's literally this is a snapshot of real life right now, and I respect that so much. So I was like, do you know what, doing it. I respect it. I think
because it's a relatable experience for many people, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So, for example, for anybody watching who didn't see my stories, I made 2 sales in April. That was it. And you probably, your first thought, if you have that and completely unexpected, is, oh my God, my business is struggling. It's going to close. It's going to thing. But you almost have to sort of look at it from the other side and say, hang on, that is 2 sales. That's still 2 sales. Somebody still out there loves my stuff. And that's enough to keep going. I know it's hard and I know it's rubbish because you'd love to see sales in the hundreds. I'm sure everybody would. But the reality of it is, even if you had those 2, it's 2 more than 0. It's 2 more than never trying. And it's just looking at things in a slightly different way. I mean, to be fair, I also have to think of it as what have I got coming up as well. So, for example, I've got UK Games Expo coming up. I've got a couple of smaller markets coming up to try. It's what's next as well as what's been. So it's that nice balance of, okay, it was 2 orders, but it was still 2 orders. I'll take it. I've got other stuff in the works. I've always said I'll be transparent. So I've posted stories where I'm crying. I've posted stories where I'm upset about something. And it's never ever been from oh my God, I'm so sad, pity me, blah, 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 blah. It's just a case of, I always want to be real with you. I'm not going to hide behind this sheen of everything fine, everything's dandy, da, 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 da. Only to next day go, I'm into administration, sorry, bye. What does that say about anything? I actually had somebody messaged me being like, oh, this isn't very professional, maybe you shouldn't do this, da, da, da. And I was just like, I'm not lying to my followers. Lost. I was like, I'm not lying to people.
I think also,
I don't see the point.
To add to that, I think everyone should approach their business the way they want to. I think you do take advice from others, obviously, but your business, you've got to make it. And unfortunately, for a lot of this stuff, one size does not fit all.
No, and I think that's the problem, is that what might work. So take Gilles, for instance, and the artworks and the T-shirts that he does. The way that is sold and presented is nothing like jewellery. They're completely different. So somebody might say to Gilles, oh, do this and it'll be great for your sales. They could say the same thing to me and I do exactly the same and my sales are pants.
It wouldn't work, yeah.
Because it doesn't work. You can't do this whole blanket thing. It's why when you get these gurus out there saying, do it this way and you'll get all the sales, da-da-da-da-da. Will you though? Look at your product. Yeah. What are you selling? Yeah. What are you showing?
Does it work for your product?
Does it fit?
Is it relevant to your product? Does it fit your audience as well?
Does it fit your audience
you want? You said in the beginning about your time as performing and singing and stuff, and we talked about how transparent you like to be on social media. I'm quite curious, actually, how much of your background in performing do you think has helped you do that?
had a comment from a family member that was, "Oh, you know, your degree is so useless," and I was like, "I'm going to prove you wrong." And actually, that degree, I mean, yes, it had its ups and downs, as all performers do. There are
Yeah.
some things you go through that are quite traumatizing, but on the other hand, you become more of you throughout it. So, you know, I think it really has helped in terms of how I can present, how I can speak to people.
Mhm.
Okay, you know, there might be something that I have to stand up and give a presentation about, but that's where I just say to myself, you know, it's not necessarily an acting degree. I'm a professional bullshit artist. You know, and I just think of it and just bring that joy to the surface, and it doesn't matter. You can say whatever. You can say, oh, you know, here is this new car and it's all fandangly and it does this and that and the other. And all you got to do is you just run with it. You don't have, there's no more thought to it. And I think that's what I got from the acting degree. You just be you. There's no need for a filter. There's no need to hide yourself. There's no need to, you know, put up this barricade, as much as I'm sure I'd love to with some people. But
Barricade to the face.
there are some people. But, you know, it really does help, and it just gives you that confidence to just speak, and that's it. You know, it's
Do
not a
you
useless
feel
degree
that
at all.
it's not a useless degree at all?
Absolutely
And
not.
even though you do a product that is quite unique in terms of how it's made and the handmade nature of it, do you feel actually bringing yourself as part of that product is still very necessary for customers? Do you feel like, I guess my question is, if someone was learning to do this or starting out, how integral do you think is bringing yourself into your brand? Or do you think people can just go on product alone?
I think you have to be part of the brand. I think it's 100% integral to the process. You can't create something and that'll do the work for me. And the reason being, there's no soul to it. There's no point in me putting something out there for the sake of it, because either A, it won't be my greatest work because I'm not really into it. I'll just, I'll make a thing or, you know, I'll not be able to talk about it with customers the same way because I haven't got that passion behind it. It's very much an integral part of the thing. You have to enjoy what you do, and like I said, this is where I lost it last year because I was so busy trying to keep up and do all the markets and all of the shows and everything every weekend and make in between and then job and then no, it was killing off a part of me that needed to be there, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100% integral to bring yourself to it. 100%.
We also talked about, like I said, it's about bringing yourself online and being an authentic version of yourself as well. One of the things you talk about online, and we've also sort of touched on lightly before, is that you do suffer with chronic illness, chronic fatigue, with the long name that I can never pronounce.
Neither can I. I must admit I have it, and I struggle to pronounce it too.
But it is commonly abbreviated as ME, isn't it? Am I right?
Yeah, ME.
Yes,
So it's I'm gonna try here. So myalgic encephalopathy. I hope that's right. Or chronic fatigue syndrome. And I see so many people saying, stop calling it chronic fatigue syndrome because it's ME and it diminishes the experience. Please stop telling people to do that. I can't say the other one. It's hard. And even then, when you say it to somebody, they've no idea what you're talking about, so you call it CFS anyway.
Yeah.
Just stop telling us how we should talk about our illnesses.
I love it when people go to someone who's actually part of that community and group and go like, oh no, you should do it this way. It's like, oh really, should I? Is that the way I address myself should change? Thanks for that feedback. Amazing.
Yeah, it's just
people do that.
It's just one of those things where I'm just like, everybody's experience is unique. Don't take away what is somebody's armor. So, for example, CFS is kind of my armor in a way because it's something I know I have. I've been through all of the tests under the sun. I went, diagnosed 10 years ago now, I think it was.
Yeah.
I didn't go through all that to not find out what was going on, So I was like, don't tell me how to describe and deal with my illness when I'm the one dealing with it, not you. So I don't understand. I've never understood that mindset.
How do you approach it in terms of your business? Because like you said, there are some days where you do a whole day's work and your body's just like, I'm really sorry, I can't do anymore. What are the challenges of having a condition like that when you're doing a creative business on top of doing a day job?
Yeah, the challenges are a lot, to be honest. And it will kind of take a toll on you mentally a little bit if you let it, because there have been times where I've just been an absolute crying mess and I've had a meltdown, and I've gone to Tim, my other half. I said, I'm just so tired of being tired. I can't describe it anyway, and it makes you feel like you can't be your full self because this thing keeps coming for you. So it is challenging in that respect, but it's also, and I went through CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, at the beginning of the year, and it was all about kind of, hang on, just look at this a different way, look at this a slightly different way. What have you done? What have you done? Just even if it's today I made a cup of tea, that's something you can hold on to. That's something that's real. That's something that you tangible, exactly. So it is challenging, but when you learn to look at things a different way, you suddenly think, oh, actually, I have got a small business. I have got hundreds of pieces worth of stock. I have X, Y, Z. And when you start looking at it that way, you think, okay, as much as I can't help it when it does crop up, it's not a bad thing that it does. It's just part of me. It's not wrong. It's part of my experience as a human. And that's all it is. It's just trying to not let it get to you all the time, which it can. Hands up. I've been the one melting down and having all that kind of stuff. I'll say that. But I also think that's another reason that I share it so much on social media. It's because I'm not the only one like this, and I don't want people to feel alone. Because the hardest thing for me was like I was the only one that had it. Out of everybody I knew, I was dealing with it on my own back then. Obviously not so much now, but it was a very on my own experience. I share my story, so no one else has to go through this alone.
Yeah, I think
so,
because there are a lot of people who doing art, doing creative business, who are suffering with, could be anything, to be honest. Or maybe they have never approached doing small business because of those things that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I find what you post really inspiring in the sense that it's never presented as an obstacle. It's never presented as like, I can't do this because of this condition. It's presented as, this is how I work with this part, like you would do with any part of you. This is just a part of who I am. It's part of my existence. And this is how I approach what I'm doing. And that's just part of the thing I have to factor in. And I find that quite encouraging, because I know there'll be people who will go through similar experiences or are suffering from other things that they may feel hold them back. It's like, they don't have to be obstacles. It's amazing what you can do. Just again, like you said, it's just a case of like, okay, how do we factor this in to what that looks like?
We need to, as a whole, start looking at invisible illnesses and mental illnesses the same way we would a physical ailment. So, for example, you break your arm. Okay, that doesn't halt you as a human being. So, okay, your arm's strapped up or whatever, fine. You still got your other arm. You can still talk. You still do other things. There are a lot that you can still do. So it hasn't stripped away any part of you. It's just you need to let that heal. So we need to look at chronic illness and mental illness in the same way. It's, what do you need to do to heal? Is that have a cup of tea? Is that have a rest day? Is that I can't work this evening? Is that I'll miss park run today?
Yeah.
It's just work. It's just adapting to it. It's not doing what I did and pretending it doesn't exist for 10 years. Or 8 years, whatever it was, and sort of try and shove it into a box. It's like, no, you take care of yourself. If you broke an arm, if you broke a leg, or if you sprained something, you would take care of yourself. Do the same thing with invisible illnesses and mental health.
I agree with that a lot, actually. And I think it's genuinely interesting to see how a business works in the capacity that you've made it work. And I love the fact that you persevere through ups and downs. I love the fact that, like you said, with health challenges, also just the fact that this is something you do on top of a whole other bunch of stuff as well. I'm sure it does feel like juggling a lot, but you seem to be juggling quite successfully. So Well,
I mean,
hope
there's
you
about
do
20
realise
balls
that.
on the floor that you can't see and only one in the air, but it's cool. We deal with it.
The last thing I wanted to touch on was the large queer representation you have in the work that you make. You have a variety of, like I said, a lot of the necklaces and the other products you make. You mentioned yourself how you identify as non-binary. How important is it to you to have that representation in the work that you do?
I feel it's very important in a world that is trying to silence people for existing. I feel like my work is needed more than ever. We need to. We're not going to be silenced. We're always here. We always have been. Stop pretending that we don't exist. You know, it's just trying to get people to understand it is not about, you know, taking something off one person to give it to another. It's about sharing the same thing. There is no we're taking away from anything. And it's so important to me that voices get heard where they can, and even if I can just be a small part of that, all the better. You know, it's so important to me. You know, and with things going on in the world as they are, it's kind of I might be one voice in a crowd of millions that gets shouted down, but I'm still a voice. I am still a safe place to go. I am still a representative of the community. And even if that is the smallest thing in the world, that might be the entire world to someone else. So
I
I'm going to
agree.
keep doing it.
And I'm very glad that you do, because like you said, now more than ever, those voices need to be heard, and the people who are in a place where they feel safe and brave enough to make those voices seen and be seen, I think collectively is doing a lot for the people who currently don't feel safe enough to be seen. So I'm glad that one of the things you do represents those communities, and it's also why you have the wonderful Priger. I want to talk about Priger quickly.
Go on then.
What inspired Priger? Who came up with the pun? And why is he so adorable? Why are they so adorable?
Priger is my baby. He's my idea, and I was trying to think of something that represented a bit of me, but could also represent a community. Now, my favorite animal in the world is tigers. Absolutely in the world, specifically white tigers. Don't know why, but tigers. And I was like, okay, I want to do something with that. And then, like I said, pride was my other thing that I felt really, you know, got a big connection to it. And you know, if I could be some sort of a voice in the community, I'd want to. And that's where Priger came up. Now, to start with, he was Pride Tiger. He was the thing. But as I was drawing him, I think I was sort of, I showed Tim it, and I just referenced him as Priger. And that was it. That was where it came from. So we just kind of went, yeah, he is Priger. Let's go with this. So they were born, essentially. I just love him.
I love him. I saw him at he was on proud display at MegaCon, and yeah, there's a video on our YouTube channel of me being really weird and wanting to touch the sweater for some reason. I'm not sure.
You were quite surprised when you were like, oh, it's really soft. I'm like, yeah.
Deep fags. What I think we should do on the note of Priger is we should take a quick break and then come back, and we should ask some very challenging questions. Maybe put some things on the edge of a cliff. Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
That's also my evil moment.
Yes, we're back for the very final part of the podcast with the wonderful Hannah. Thank you, Hannah, so much for being with us today. We like to start the final segment often with a little segment we call our hyperfixations, where we talk about the things that are currently just in our brain this week that we're obsessed with and we can't think about anything else. Hannah,
yes.
What are you hyperfixated on this week?
I am hyperfixating about a game I found on the PS5 that's called Puzzle Quest 3. Now, if anybody out there knows Bejeweled, you basically match colours and match tiles and things like that. So, it's that, but with Dungeons and Dragons. So you have
Fair
a
enough.
character. So I'm playing a cheetah mercenary at the moment, and when you match the tiles, you then build up your spells to attack the other person. And I'm so hyperfixated on it because number one, I love that game anyway, but number two, it's an RPG at the same time. So I've been playing it for I don't want to admit how many hours in it now. That's why my prototype is still on the desk, right? that and it needs a paint job, but but no, that's been my absolute thing.
Fair enough. It's
That's
like,
so sad.
that's not sad. No. All hyperfixations are very valid, I'll have you
Yes,
know.
they are.
Exactly. My hyperfixation this week has been one that sort of has been a repeating one. I think this might be the third time it's appeared on this podcast. I've been obsessed for a long time with a new Broadway musical called Death Becomes Her, based on the movie starring Meryl Streep and a bunch of other people. And this week were the Tony nominations, and they got nominated for like a crap ton of awards. And
Just everything.
I like best musical. Both the female leads were both nominated for best lead. Like, I'm obsessed.
amazing.
And last month, the full soundtrack recording came out on Spotify, and when I tell you, I'm still listening to it every day. I love this sound. It's crazy. I don't know why. I'm just so like, it is literally a hyperfix. I am hyperfixated on this musical. I can't see it. It's in New York. It is nowhere near me. It's not down the road.
No,
But the way, like, I need to see it. I don't know. I can't explain it. I need to see this musical so much. And it's just like, even before we recorded this today, I was listening to it.
now that is a hyperfixation.
It's such a hyperfixation. I'm so obsessed with it. So yeah, that's something that's been going through my mind a lot. We also have
my hyperfixation musicals fans with the opera. So
That's
that
a
thing
good
was on
one.
repeat. I'm seeing it on Saturday for my birthday. So.
Are you? Nice. If anyone listening at home has a hyperfixation, or maybe they just want to ask us a question, we recommend that they go find Coop the carrier pigeon, who is on all our social media. Just find the pigeon, comment on there, or send us a direct message on all
Give
our
him
social medias.
have to edit him
Yeah.
in there. Give him a
Just, come ask us a question, and who knows, it might get read out on the next episode when I'm back with PB. We've just been talking about all the things that bring us joy and happiness right now, but unfortunately that's usually followed by a time where we have to actually kick something out of our lives forever off the edge of a cliff, because we're going to play Choose It or Lose It, and this is a very special one. This is such a special one for you listening at home, because it is the first time ever that I am the one who has to choose it or lose it. Yes, usually it is Gilles who gets to be tortured by my ultimatums, or my guest also has to face equally difficult questions. But this time, for some reason, I've agreed to be the one in the firing line and be put on the edge of a cliff. So I'm intrigued what dilemma I'm going to have to pick between. I hope you've been thinking very long. Oh my goodness.
There is a post-it.
They're prepared. They're very prepared. Oh my goodness.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
For the edge of a cliff. Picture the scene.
Yeah.
Okay. You live in the real world. You can watch all the Sonic you want, play the games all you want, all the time, have all the merch you want. Everything's Sonic, but you're in the real world. Or you live in the Sonic universe. You're friends with all the characters, and you've got all the powers and access to everything.
Okay.
But you get roboticized. Which world are you choosing?
That's so... Why would... I was like, oh, this I get to be in the world that I'm obsessed with for like 37 years of my life, and just live with all these characters. But I get roboticized? I don't want to be some bad Nick. The actual... Fuck, Hannah.
You didn't say it had to be nice.
Well, no, but seriously. So basically, do I want to live the life I'm living now? Or do I want to actually be in the world I'm obsessed with, but basically live it in a torturous way? Oh. I could meet Shadow. That would be so cool.
This is the ideal time for the countdown clock to appear, and you just have to make a decision for.
You know what? No, because if I
I love the fact that I've stumped you.
no, because I was thinking like, well, I could just choose to live in their world, and that'd be fun. But then I'm kicking off the whole fandom, everything, the video games. I'm kicking that off the edge of a cliff, sitting next to like has-been hotel merch and pepper armies. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think Sonic merch, the fandom deserves that. I think based on that reason alone, I'm gonna have to actually. Oh, do I want to kick the real Sonic world off the edge of a cliff?
You would be in the real world, so there is that.
True.
Real world as it is right now.
Well, yeah, which is not always appealing in itself.
Exactly.
World's great right now, not on fire. You know what? It breaks my heart to say, but as much as I would love to visit the real world, it's going to have to be put off the edge of a cliff, and I'm going to have to stay living in the real world and never get to meet my heroes.
Outside looking in.
Yeah, forever. Always through the looking glass, never in the looking glass. That's not the analogy. Was just... That wasn't it.
Always looking at the mirror.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my choice made. I've made my choice. Fine.
There you go.
I stay in the real world. I don't like that. I don't know why. I'm never being on that side ever again.
Did you have one for me? Is the other question, because it could be just as mean.
Well, there was one potentially prepared, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but now I feel like you sort of deserve it, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, I probably deserve it after that.
Yeah. So, the one I was going to give you, which, I don't know, it's probably, having spoke to you now, is probably quite an easy one, to be honest, is picture the scene. You're on the edge of a cliff, and you're there. The seagulls, for some reason, why not? And on the edge of this cliff to your left is your skill set and knowledge of polymer clay.
Okay.
So everything you've learned, everything you know, and everything you will ever know is on one side.
Okay.
On your other side is your performing skill set, your ability to sing, your ability to act, your ability to do stuff on camera. One of those skill sets you need to push off a cliff. So you would never be able to sing again. You wouldn't know how to be tone deaf. You wouldn't be able to perform. You'd be just a nervous wreck in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. Or you lose the ability to make all the products you currently know how to make. Which creative passion is more important to you, Hannah?
I'm gonna say polymer clay is going off a cliff.
Oh! That took me by surprise.
Because, and I've said this for years, if I lose the ability to sing, I lose a part of me, and I don't want to risk that.
You know what?
I too much love it.
I respect that answer so much. I respect that a huge lot. So
if you hear me coming up behind you singing Insane, Alistair, fandom song.
I'll be like, here we go.
Unlimited.
I never want to hear that ever again. If you even come near me at a con and start singing Unlimited, the way my neck will turn, I'll be like, who is that? Needs to be quiet right now. Do not taunt me.
Comment below if you'd like to see me do that.
Oh no. Oh goodness. I know what you're like. You'll be there. The camera pointing at us, being like, let's see how angry we make you. That'd be quite funny. So we both kick things off the edge of a cliff. We have both talked about hyperfixations, and I've had the absolute pleasure of learning about your work, your history, your creative process. Hannah, it has been such a joy and just a general thrill to talk to you today. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure.
If people want to go online, find out all about you, find your socials, and more importantly, find your store and purchase every piece of Pride merchandise that's ever existed, where should they go?
So they should go to hillmanshandmade.com, https://hillmanshandmade.com. Or I'm mainly over on Instagram, so that's at Hillmans_handmade. And yeah, hope to see you over there. I do have Blue Sky as well, also Hillman's Handmade. Just look up Hillman's Handmade.
Look at Hillman's Handmade.
You'll be fine. Yeah, but I am mainly active over on Instagram at the moment, because that was the other thing with socials. It was kind of like too many. Focus on one. Just focus.
And if people want to come look at your wares in person, what are the next events on the horizon for you?
So the next one is the UK Games Expo, which is at the end of May, beginning of June. And I'm super excited for that one because we loved it last year. It was amazing. It's an amazing vibe anyway. So I would love to see you there if possible.
Yes. And I will be hunting you down anyway because it's my first time going. So I'm looking forward to it.
New blood. Sorry.
Of course.
But it does mean you'll get to see the new bracelets and things that we have. So
yes, we've got a whole new range of stuff. We love a new line of stuff. If people want to find the podcast anywhere at all, you can also find us at The Con Creatives on all social media platforms. If you don't want to look on all social media platforms, just go to www.theconcreatives.com, where not only can you find a list of all our social media platforms, you can not only find a shop that has a range of podcast merch that you can buy to support the show, it even has a brand new section where you can see a variety of the companies that we work with to make the products that we use to trade and use to display our items, who we currently collaborate with. And sometimes you might even find a cheeky discount code on there for them. So do go on there and have a look. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you need to rate us 5 stars. It costs you nothing but helps us so much. So just do it.
Do the free thing. It's
do
free.
The free thing. Exactly. If you are watching us right now on YouTube, 1, hello, and 2, you need to click the subscribe button, you need to click the bell button, you need to leave a like, and you need to leave a comment, and we reply to almost every comment we get, so please leave us one, because they are really encouraging and motivate us to keep doing this, because, you know, we love motivation, so motivate us, please. Other than that, I think that's everything. I've always feel like I've forgotten something when I'm doing this on my own, but hopefully not.
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything. So until next time, again, thank you so much, Hannah, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
The Convention Creatives podcast is hosted by Gilles Bone and Jay Eggman. Art and design is by Gilles Bone, and editing and production is by Jay Eggman. To find out more, visit www.theconcreatives.com.